So, I was out when Sleep No More was on, and everyone keeps telling me that I'm going to vehemently despise it for some reason. I don't know why, as I kind of know exactly what to expect from it, and disappointment's usually what brings out the extreme negativity in me, and there's no way that'll happen here. It's Mark Gatiss. Does anyone expect anything more than some ill-thought-out, relatively harmless fluff by this point? I don't really tend to get that mad at Mark over his missteps as often as Moffat, probably because I know that Moffat can do so much better than what he usually does. I mean, I rarely seem to actively dislike Mark's work, and even if I've never been too thrilled with it, I do at the very least find his obvious enthusiasm encouraging. I'd argue that he's kind of the spiritual embodiment of Doctor Who fandom. He's the wide-eyed child at heart that we all are, doing his dream job of writing for a show that he grew up with. However, as I've said before, I am fucking dreading the possibility of him becoming the next showrunner for reasons detailed here. And when it comes to this one, given I've never really been much more than lukewarm on his past efforts, and this is his 6th episode in 5 years, and he always does very samey things every time, and Sleep No More might just as well be called the bear's shit in the woods of terror, given how rare it is that he surprises me, well, I ain't exactly all that pumped for it, that's all I'm saying. Okay, why was I supposed to utterly hate this one again? I mean, it's functional. Sort of. Barely. Not really a compliment, I know, and... Okay, while it's not something I'd call good, lots of it's pretty stupid, and there are certainly lots of holes to poke in it, but I didn't think it was painful to watch like some people seem to. Though I can see people just being set against found footage for the very obvious reason of too much shaky cam gives people headaches, and I fully understand that, but I was fully expecting a spaceship full of howler monkeys flinging their own shit at the screen given what people were saying about it. Given I'm kind of an awkward, disagreeable shit and a card-carrying hipster, I'm actually inclined to be a bit more charitable towards Mark in this case, because while I dislike most found footage movies like lots of people do, at least it's actually something different this time. Okay, yes, it is a poor application of found footage to a thoroughly generic story, but found footage is a fucking difficult genre to get right, so I don't really blame Mark for it. The reason that most found footage movies suck is that your story has got to justify its form. I'm all for trying to tell your story in a more creative way. I'm a big Finnish fan, as you know, and they wrote the book on creatively formatted Doctor Who. For example, their release Live 34 is a story literally told through a series of fictitious news broadcasts. The story is of a colony in space being ruled by a dictatorship, and the form of fictitious news broadcasts doctored and censored by the authority work to enhance the narrative to give you a sense of what living in the society feels like. And it also almost works to characterise that authority. Their presence in the narrative technique is almost like a character in itself. That's the crucial thing. The unconventional form has got to work to enhance the narrative in some way, or else what's the point in using it at all? Which brings me neatly to the question that so many found footage movies and this episode should have been asking. How would your story be different if it was told without the gimmick? And I'm calling it a gimmick in this case because the idea of found footage and the idea of monsters created from sleep dust and a machine designed to allow humans to operate without sleep are kind of completely disparate. The basic story would pretty much be no different if you completely removed the found footage idea, give or take a few scenes. This is the problem that always happens with found footage. The form has got to arise from the story. If you go in with the intention of using that form and then come up with the story, found footage is going to feel even more like a gimmick than it already is. Okay, I do admire Mark's imagination and his ambitions. I always have. While I think that as a scriptwriter he can be quite haphazard and really ham-fisted, he is a good ideas man. Churchill and the Daleks, Robin Hood and robots, and here I could see him going, hey, how about we do Doctor Who as a found footage movie? And alright, I admire the enthusiasm that breeds that idea, hey, let's tell it in a different way this time. But with unconventional story forms, that's not the order you're supposed to have that idea in. For this to work, you're supposed to have the idea for your story, then go, that would really work if it was a found footage. Found footage is an augmentation of your story. It shouldn't be the basis for it. You've got to build it off of the story that you're trying to tell. The story is the important bit. Off the top of my head here, a crew of a spaceship land on an alien planet that's supposedly been uninhabited for thousands of years with a view of creating a human settlement. The Doctor and Clara show up as they touch down, and we journey with the crew as they explore some alien ruins or some shit, and footage from the crew's helmet cams is transmitted back to Earth for research purposes. See, you got your plot of space exploration that justifies the form of found footage. Just the way the story tries to draw found footage into its plot just felt kinda slapdash to me. It's just not done in a very organic way. It wouldn't really matter if it wasn't found footage at all, and the idea seemed to only really be there to set up the compulsory ending scare that has to be in every found footage thing ever. Seriously, they are so fucking ubiquitous by this point that I'd jump out of my skin if a found footage thing didn't end on a scare. Here's an idea, how about it looks like it's about to end with something scary, then we just cut to a bloke eating a sandwich or something. Oh my god, the horror. But anyway, I didn't particularly mind the plot or anything. I mean, it was really, really samey, and if it wasn't found footage, it would pretty much be like any other episode. As I said earlier, I've always admired Mark's imagination, but in this case, it's essentially your bog standard Dead Space type scenario with a bit of weird quirky future tech, isn't it? The idea at play appears to be more, oh my god, it's a found footage, rather than, oh my god, look at this interesting idea. Which, the sleep machine is an interesting idea, but we kept being distracted from delving further into how the sleep machine works and affects people because it's a found footage. It needs to conform to the tropes of the subgenre and fill out the runtime with almost nothing but cliches.
What the hell are they?
I think they're probably this week's Monsters, Ms. Character. They're probably not like, I don't know, some puppies or something.
Where did they go?
I think they've probably primarily vanished in order to give the viewer some breathing room until the next scary bit.
Dear gods, what are we going to do?
Whatever the screenwriter is telling you to do. That's kind of how these things work. It just bugged me because we have this really interesting idea about allowing humans to exist without sleep. We pretty much explain everything about who these monsters are and what the sleep machine does like 15 minutes in. And then most of the rest of it is a lot of terrified people running around some rooms going, oh my god, I am so scared. Thing is, found footage can usually get away with lots of repetitive scenes and redundant dialogue, specifically when it's trying to, not always trying to say, oh my god, this is totes real, like Blair Witch was, but when it's at the very least trying to appear to be real. If you say literally every event in Blair Witch Project out loud, it's pretty boring. It's literally 90% composed of some annoying young people lost in a wood babbling about how scared they are. But it at the very least worked on the level of trying to appear to be real. The found footage aspect is there to try and give an illusion of reality. This is why, when found footage is blatant that it doesn't give that much of a fuck about trying to appear real, then these scenes in the second half do get really repetitive and feel even more like lots of people running around some corridors with the lights turned off, shaking the camera about and going, woo, there's some monsters over there! I sort of started out kind of liking that we had Reece Shearsmith's professor dude, can't remember his name, narrating the footage. I thought maybe they would try and heighten the reality of it using him, but then for some reason he starts talking about the characters, and it brings up a bloody fact sheet about them, and it starts feeling even more like spoon-feeding than this type of story would usually do. Hello, my name is a man, and my character trait is that I'm... yes, that's a man, full name Soldier Arnold Mann, and his character trait is that he's the Joker of the group. So obviously, his death will be really quite tragic because that's like dramatic irony, yeah? I was sort of barely, and I do mean barely here, trying to take it seriously for the first half, and then the Sandmen get some screen time and I started pissing myself laughing. I thought we learnt our lesson with the silence. Monsters literally making a woo face are not scary. They look like bloody Halloween decorations. Of course, it didn't really help that occasionally we get POV shots of people holding guns. Trying to make Sleep No More look like a House of the Dead game, complete with very fuzzy-looking monsters, wasn't exactly a great way to construct what's attempting to be an innovative episode. Innovative in the way of employing the most overused horror format in Hollywood. Okay, looking at the mammoth amount of holes I've poked so far, I think maybe the reason I'm slightly more charitable to this one than most is because it did make me laugh occasionally because of how ridiculous and silly it is. Really guys, if you watch this as a stupid sci-fi B movie, it's not that bad. Part of my not minding that may be because I grew up watching lots of shitty horror movies, though as said, the only way it tries to be innovative is the found footage, and given found footage kinda reached artistic bankruptcy a long time ago, that really just adds to the feeling that I've seen this type of thing a billion times before. And the Sand People are working to wipe out mankind. Because of course they are. Are we ever going to get a Doctor Who monster that, I don't know, just wants to make everyone a little bit dizzy or something? It's always with the bloody destruction of mankind. Why do aliens not want to, like, I don't know, give us all the flu or something? But anyway, sorry if you were expecting me to get irate, guys, but let's agree on it being fucking stupid at the very least. Overall, it's not that impressive and basically amounted to a cheap haunted house ride, but for what it was, while wildly flawed from the foundations, it's not exactly Gatiss' worst, and I didn't find it nearly as abrasive as some people said it was. Anyway, now it's time for... Prediction Corner, the section of He Who Moans where I try and predict what'll happen in future episodes. Okay, my prediction is that Hellbent is not the last that we see of Clara. I think that she will have a cameo in the Christmas special, in which she says her final goodbye because that last goodbye was not goodbye enough. I also think the Christmas special is going to be a second adaptation of A Christmas Carol, with River Song playing the Ghost of Christmas Past, Ashilda playing the Ghost of Christmas Present, and Clara playing the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come. There is no escape. She is chained to this show forevermore.